With ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, nice to speak with you again. We have a former Ambassador Yovanovitch who's coming up next in testimony. Hostile witness, what kind of treatment do you think we're going to get from the ambassador?
I think that the Democrats are very interested in what she has to say because this is a woman who lost her job as a result of the Trump administration. She had high praise inside the diplomatic community. She lost her livelihood as a result of which he believes was a scheme against her that some of Trump's loyalists were engaged in, including Rudy Giuliani. So I'd expect some tougher questions from Republicans. Democrats view her as a very compelling witness, an unimpeachable witness who can just talk about her perspective on the ground in Ukraine of what it meant to have a president running this very unusual foreign policy.
The first two witnesses, Kent and Taylor, your feelings on how they did? Was one side able to get anything out of them that you felt was compelling?
I think they delivered on what the promise of their testimony was, which was two civil servants who certainly didn't look the part of Trumpers, but work in the Trump administration, saying that in their view what the president was doing was improper. They didn't have to lay judgment on impeachment. That's a political question for Congress to figure out. But they laid out the facts as they knew them, and the idea that a president would condition aid that was approved by Congress and part of U.S. foreign policy on politically motivated investigations is powerful stuff. Even if it wasn't particularly new, we did learn some new details of additional phone call where President Trump was on the line asking about those investigations. But even short of that, if you're watching this at home, starting to dial in, it was pretty telling that you had people that currently work for the president describing the actions in this kind of detail.
I think we know what the stakes are. Clearly, what are the Democrats, what kind of home run are they going to have to hit for this to go to the Senate, for 20 Republican senators to flip on the president? What is going to have to come out of all this?
Well, the public's going to have to decide that it is an impeachable offense and they should be removed from office. And there's been little sign of that so far. I think majorities tend to support impeachment and removals, but majorities tend to disapprove of the president as well. So I think something's going to have to change in public sentiment in a much broader way. And these things are all related. There's no signs of that, but I think this was really the beginning of a process that if the Democrats play right, maybe there's a chance to convince the public more broadly that that's the right point of view. Barring that, we know the math. We know the facts. We know the president's popularity in his own party. I don't think removal from office is a likelihood at this point.
Yeah. When do you, what kind of timeline are you putting on this, Rick, in terms of the testimony, the witnesses to come through? When might this be wrapped up?
I'd look for the House to try to wrap up their testimony by the end of December, before the holidays. Maybe with an eye to even have an impeachment vote, articles of impeachment come to the floor shortly before the holidays. That's the timeline they're looking at now. There's a whole raft of new witnesses coming forward just in the next week. The Democrats are aware of the political calendar as well. Iowa votes the beginning of February, so the split screen is maybe not an ideal one, but I feel like everyone has an incentive to get this done as quickly as possible, then get it to the Senate and have them consume maybe January, part of February with it, and have it settled once and for all in time for next November.
We hear a lot from people who say, well, the polls were wrong in the last presidential election, but as you know, polls gauge the popular vote. They don't handle the Electoral College. Right now, the most recent ABC News poll with Washington Post has 5 Democrats ahead of Donald Trump in the race for president. How much weight do you put in that?
Well, I think right now it looks very likely that President Trump loses the popular vote. That's about as much as you can say about that. That doesn't mean that he loses to any of those individuals, as we saw with Hillary Clinton last time. Just the fact of where voters live, California alone can give you an electoral majority, but not an electoral college majority. So I think we have to recognize what polls do and don't tell us. And a national poll at this stage tells us something about the direction of the electorate, but it doesn't tell us who's going to win or lose.
Rick Klein in Washington with the very latest. Rick, thank you as always.
Thank you.